What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are going to check out a very special chart today. It will hopefully help us determine what the potential is of the average altcoin in the crypto space. The idea behind this video is that by the end of it, you'll have a general understanding that you could just blindfold yourself, pick an altcoin in the dark, man, like literally just blindly choose something in the top 100, top 200, and get a general expectation of what you could see across the board for crypto. That's the point of this video. So if that sounds good to you, hit that like button, stay tuned, subscribe, and let's get into it, my friends. I'm going to put myself on the small face here. All right, so the chart that we're going to look at is others. This is the total crypto market cap, excluding the top 10 coins. So essentially, this chart is what the average altcoin would look like, right? And maybe not on a week-to-week basis, month-to-month basis, but and I'm sure not every single coin looks exactly like this, but I would bet my money, go ahead and pick your favorite altcoin, whatever it might be. The average altcoin probably looks something similar to this now, right? And that's this chart. It's the others chart. It's your altcoin chart. If we can potentially determine where this thing will top by the end of this cycle, we will get an average growth for the average altcoin, right? Let me put that in perspective, or let me apply that perspective here. You know, from the current readings, the current market cap, if we were to see this chart top off at, let's say, $2 trillion, that was the height that this chart achieves by the end of the cycle. All altcoins outside of the top 10 achieve a market cap of $2 trillion, okay? That would imply that the average crypto, doesn't matter which one it is, but the average crypto in the space would see a gain of about almost a 6x, a 5.8x, right? I don't think that's where it's going to top. I drew it there because 2 trillion is a nice even number. Truthfully, I probably should have done it to like an even number on the percentage, but you get the point, right? That's essentially what this chart would mean. If we look back at last month in November, I'm sure not every single crypto grew 72%. There were some that grew more, there were some that grew less, but the average coin, go ahead and check. I bet it grew something like 72%, maybe just under, maybe just over, but something around there. There were some that only grew 5%. There were some that had a red month, and there were some like XRP and Cardano and XLM that had like 400%, right? But the average coin probably grew like this. So using this chart, I think, will really help us out. I feel like I've explained the hell out of that. So again, guys, hit that like button, subscribe. Let's really start to dive in here. So I have a theory about this chart, right? It's not the Bitcoin chart. It's definitely not the Bitcoin chart, but it's similar enough to it, right? You can see 2017, we had the 2017 rally for Bitcoin here. This move up looks pretty damn similar, and we can compare it to BTC actually. Let's do it here. And I'll make it a candlestick chart too. That way it's very comparable. We'll put it in log so that it's lined up. You can see very similar moves, right? Now I'm going to change the color because I did this once before and I actually got confused as to which chart. I've always thought that they were obvious which one was which, but we'll just make this one orange, okay? And then we'll keep it red. So that's obviously Bitcoin. That's obviously the others chart. You can see they move up very similarly. Bitcoin here in 2017 topped off 1 month before the others chart did. Here, again, they're not the exact same, but somewhat similar. This move up for Bitcoin was a lot closer to the high than this move up was for others, but we see that each cycle. We see Bitcoin kind of start the cycle off a little bit more bullishly, and then the altcoins start to catch up at the end of the cycle. And then we can see here, if I can pull this thing down a little bit, now the others chart's on bottom here, right? Bitcoin here on this first peak in this double top, Bitcoin topped here in April. The others chart topped in May. So again, a month after the Bitcoin bull cycle was over. Bitcoin's all-time high was over here, but I think the bull cycle ended here. This is not bull cycle, right? That's not a bull cycle. That's a crab market, right? Just like the bear cycle didn't go all the way this long. It ended over here on this first low, right? That was the end of the bear cycle over here, but the bull cycle didn't start here. The bull cycle started here, right? You wouldn't say it started over here, it started here. Just like you wouldn't say it ended over here, it ended here. And if that's the case, if the bull cycle did end here, again, we had altcoins topping off 1 month after Bitcoin, okay, for 2 cycles in a row. Now, I'm comparing it to Bitcoin because for the Bitcoin chart, I wonder if it'll let me do this actually on the Bitcoin chart, or if would it work? Yeah, it would work. Okay, that's cool. So from a high to a low, last cycle, the Bitcoin price saw a 1618 extension. Okay. If we look at the others chart from last cycle, high to low, it did the exact same thing. High to low here, it hit the 1618. Okay. Others tracks Bitcoin pretty well, not in overall percentages, but as far as like the overall move goes, it tracks it pretty well. And my assumption is that Bitcoin this cycle will achieve a 2272 extension. Okay, I'll bring it back to the others chart, but this is pertinent information, I promise. Okay, the very first cycle Bitcoin ever had, right here, was in 2011 June to the very first cycle low. Our next cycle high went all the way up here to this like yellow line, the 2272, right there, just above it actually, right? High to low, significant fib, cycle high, cycle low, all the way to the 2272. The very next cycle, from that cycle high here to the next cycle low that we had, we topped off just above the 2272 again, a repeat there, okay? Last cycle, we had a whole lot of economic mayhem. Let's just chalk it up to that. And we did not see the 2272. We stopped at the 1618. Okay, so far what we've had is 3 cycles, 2 of which stopped at the 2272, 1 of which stopped at the 1618, and it actually had a double top. To me, the double top in itself, holding at the 1618 instead of going to the 2272, it shows that last cycle was held back. And there's a lot of other economic mayhem that happened last cycle that we don't need to get into, but I mean, if you were alive and you weren't like under the age of 5 or probably under the age of 10, I would say, you were aware of the global circumstances to an economic level, or at least a certain degree. You were aware of COVID, you were aware of the Ukraine-Russia conflict, war, all kinds of things, high inflation, right? High to low, I don't know. I say under 10, but I don't know. Our kids who are even like 15, are they even aware of all that stuff? I don't know. But high to low here, all I'm trying to get at here, guys, is that high to low each cycle, we've at least seen the 2272 or the 1618. So if Bitcoin is going to see its 1618 or 2272 here, I would assume others, same thing, from a high to a low, it sees its 2272. And I'm getting that, I'm theorizing this, right? It's not a fact. I'm just drawing this conclusion based off of last cycle. Others double topped at its 1618, just like Bitcoin did. Okay, so my theory is that wherever Bitcoin tops off this cycle will be where others tops off, local to its fib as well, right? It's not going to be, if I drew a percentage growth, it wouldn't be the same, but we have the fibs, thankfully, to kind of match that up. Okay, so personally, I don't expect Bitcoin to stop at the 1618. I think that we have a whole lot of cycle to go. I think that by the end of 2025, that'll be when the cycle ends. And generally speaking, if we look at Bitcoin here, you look at it, it's the end of the cycle that tends to be the best, right? It's the end of the cycle. We just kicked off the end of the cycle. We're 1 month into the end of the cycle. I don't think it stops here personally, right? And being this high up in the fibs already, I can't see us stopping at 173, but that's something to consider. It was the minimum target that we hit last time. So 173 should be the minimum target addressed now. The 2272 is the target that I personally think that Bitcoin will achieve. So by that mention, I would say that I think others sees the 2272 this cycle as well. From a high to a low, that 2272 is all the way up at about $6 trillion, because often, right, we didn't just hit the 2272 precisely, we went just above it. So I would say 5.93 trillion. Going just above it, that would probably be about 6 trillion, right? So let's just call it 6 trillion to make it easy to say. That would be where I see the others chart going by the end of this cycle. $6 trillion. Okay. What else was I going to say on that note? I was going to compare something with Bitcoin. I can't remember what I was going to do. Anyways, who cares? So now that we have the 6 trillion in mind, if we measure from the current price in the others chart to 6 trillion all the way up here, basically like right there just above the 2272, that gives us an average growth of about 1,665% for the others chart, and therefore the average altcoin. Now again, this is the average altcoin outside of the top 10. So your coins like BNB might not do a 16x. In fact, it probably does less. XRP, it might not do a 16x. You know, from a market cap of 128 billion, I mean, not seeing a multi-trillion-dollar market cap by the end of this cycle, I think that's okay to state, right? Ethereum, same thing. It might not see a 16x, but with these top cap coins, you don't really expect that, right? Ethereum, maybe it sees, you know, from its current price, maybe it sees a 3x, maybe it sees a 6x or a 7x, but it's not going to see a 10x. Ethereum's not going to be worth 34K, much less a 17x by the end of the cycle, right? And that's essentially the average prediction for the average coin, again, outside the top 10. So what this means, if it hasn't clicked, if I haven't made it abundantly obvious, you stuck through the whole video to deal with this you've dealt with me along the way explaining this, probably not in the best way, but to get to this golden egg moment here where you can look at this chart and confidently, if you don't believe it's going to the 2272, that's fine. We can address the other target too, and that's actually what I meant to do before I got to this point. But that's at about a 4.7x. So now we get back to the point that I was trying to say, is that you can confidently look at any altcoin in the market and expect a minimum average of about a 5x almost, right? Because you did go a little bit above the 1618 last time too. So that probably puts you at about 400%. I think asking for a minimum growth of 400% across the board for the average altcoin outside the top 10, I don't think that's asking for too much at all. In fact, I think that's very pessimistic. But if you're one of those people that think the cycle's about to end maybe over the next couple months, that'd be a good target for you. About a 5x is the minimum expectation we could see across the board for crypto. Essentially what that means, guys, is you could just literally put all these coins on a dartboard, close your eyes, turn the lights off, throw darts in the dark, darts in the dark while you're blind, man. And whatever dart hits, whatever crypto, you can put money in it. You can literally just like guess randomly, and you're likely going to make a 5x or more by the end of the cycle. The minimum that I truly think, or at least the average that I truly think is going to be accomplished by the end of this cycle, is going to be closer to the 17x. That's my genuine expectation. 17.6x to be true. And this, again, to consider it, what that means is the average crypto will see this. That doesn't mean every crypto will see this. There will be plenty of cryptos that see less than a 17.6x. There will be plenty of cryptos that see more than a 17.6x from here, okay? But that's the average. So with that, I mean, $100 could turn into, that would be what, almost, that'd be $1,700, right? You've got $100 to $1,700, 1,000 to 17,000, 10,000 into 170,000. More than that, you can keep doing the math, right? But that's very suitable gains, I think, especially for what we assume to be less than a year's left of bull cycle left. So I think I've said everything I need to say, my friends. I don't think I need to say anything else. There's one more thing we can end the video with. If we look at the RSI here, again, addressing this or comparing this to Bitcoin, I think it'll go over well. Okay, so if we connect the lines here from a high here to a high there, it touches these highs. You can see you have a high here and you have a much lower high this time. You've got a high here and a high here. It's two peaks, but a significantly lower high. Here you have a high and a high. They're together though. They're very close. Kind of like if we look at the Bitcoin chart here and we go on the monthly to this ribbon or to this RSI, not ribbon. I don't know why I said ribbon. And we look at all the all-time high in the RSIs throughout Bitcoin's history, right? Going into the last cycle even, right? If you look at this RSI here, all-time high here, two peaks in the RSI, all-time high here, two peaks in the RSI, all-time high here, two peaks in the RSI, all-time high here, two peaks, and that second peak was where the all-time high came in each time. And this time again, you had peaks lining up just like this throughout all Bitcoin's history. This chart goes all the way back to 2010, right? The other chart only goes back until 2015. Here you have these highs lining up just like Bitcoin does, but it's got less history to go off of. And then last cycle we had a high all the way up at this line, but another high that was very low, just like the other chart. A high that was all the way up here, but a high that was very low. It's not the exact same, but it's similar. My theory is for Bitcoin that we're going to get another two peaks. Just like we have every single cycle, we're going to get two peaks on this line. We haven't even had our first interaction yet, right? We're going to get two peaks on this line. The second peak will be the all-time high. That'll be the end of the cycle, okay, for Bitcoin. Others, I would assume, is the same thing. So to put it in perspective, what I'm getting at here, the grand point for anybody who's watched this far, is that I think others will give us two peaks as it did the cycle before, and on that second peak, come on now, on this second peak, that's where the true high will be for others, okay? So in other words, personally, I don't expect this cycle to be over anytime soon. We're very far away from this trend line being achieved. It is the month RSI, the monthly time frame, right? So this can take a while to achieve. The last time that we were down here, like at this range, this was in the last cycle, that was July 2020. We didn't have our second peak until November 2021. So from July to November the next year, July 2020 to November of 2021, that was over a year, right? And we were literally in this exact same area last time. You could say, someone could argue that this is the first peak, but it's not, because we haven't touched the line yet, in my opinion, right? This first peak happened April 2021. The second peak happened in November 2021. A lot of altcoins did top off during this part of the cycle, right? A lot of altcoins did top off there. But it took over a year. April 2000, or I guess the actual, maybe we should do the first peak. April 2021, July 2020. So that's 3 months. That's about 3/4 of a year there. Okay, 3/4 of a year to hit this line. Okay, to get your first peak out of 2. Whenever we were this low the first time over here, or I guess it would have been this time, not this time, so it would have been over here. That was December 2016. It took us until June 2017 to hit that. So 6 months there, 9 months on this one. It took us 6 to 9 months just to get up to this line from the same exact areas that we're at now. You guys, this December, this would imply that it's going to be June to September before the monthly RSI even interacts with this line. It's going to be June to September before we're getting to that last phase of the bull cycle. Right here's the first peak in the 2017 cycle. We were right here, and then we had more to go. Here was the first peak in the last cycle. It was right here, and we had more to go. It wasn't as much, but we had more to go. The first peak probably doesn't even come in for another 6 to 9 months, based off of what we've seen historically, right? And then again, comparing it to Bitcoin, that's why we're assuming on others that you will go up to this trend line, is basically based off of Bitcoin, seeing your relations that you've had with Bitcoin and the performance you've had based not just in the RSI but on the fibs as well. I hope all of this is connecting some dots. I hope it's making sense. But I got really nothing else to say, guys. I think that the others chart will top off in late 2025. I think it'll top off 1 month after Bitcoin tops off, and I believe we will have 2 peaks in the monthly RSI to warn us, right? So the first peak will warn us. The second peak is what we'll be looking for, and that second peak, not in price, because again, peaks in the RSI, you have 1 peak here, 1 peak here. You didn't really get 2 peaks in price, did you? Last cycle we did. I'm not expecting that this cycle. But by the end of the cycle, by the second peak on the monthly RSI that interacts with that trend line, we should be, I would think, all the way up at this $6 trillion level. From 345 billion to 600 trillion as an overall crypto market cap, that would imply a 17.6x for the average altcoin. That's the end of it. If you liked the video, hit the like button, subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Thank you all for coming. I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye.